Hey, Jenny. Happy Wine Wednesday.
Happy Wine Wednesday, Mish. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing amazing. I can't believe that we have made it to September.
I know. So excited. And to talk
I
about it on this week's episode.
know, right? We're actually going to be talking about September and not
Yes.
just about how Earth, Wind, and Fire is obsessed with it. Um, anyways, today's topic, we're going to be chatting with you guys about how to set and tackle big goals.
Mhm.
And we're going to be talking about how we want it to be a checkpoint for you and not just something that's set and forget at the beginning of the year. I think a lot of people do that around New Year's, and the running joke is like, look at the gym on January 1st and then go back on in February and see what happens. And we don't want that to happen to your goals. So
Right.
we're excited to give you guys some tactical tips to make sure that you're prioritizing them, because what you give attention to and what you nurture is what's going to grow, and your goals should be no different. So excited to
Mhm.
dive into that. Misha's a wealth of knowledge. She's going to be sharing with you guys, and so am I. But as always, before we do that, let's dive in a little bit to the wine. I'm not going to lie, you guys, I really hope you had the opportunity to pick this bottle up because she is a diamond. Like, so amazing, so beautiful, so elegant. Today we are drinking a Conte Venezi Giola Chardonnay, which is kind of a misnomer. The Chardonnay is actually coming out of Italy. And one of my favorite trivia games, if you will, is getting people who think that Chardonnay is nasty to drink it, because I genuinely used to be one of those people that I'd be like, oh, oaky, buttery Chard, I can't do it. It's an old lady drink and it's not the vibe. When in reality, like when you like attenuate Chardonnay and when you do it properly, it can be one of the most beautiful, magical, elegant drinks that there is. This one is on a very, very old vineyard, and it's a 2019 vintage, so it's got a little bit of age on it. It's really mineral driven. It spent a little bit of its time in neutral oak barrels, which means they're used oak barrels, and they're not going to impart that same like vanillin taste or that butteriness that you get from like new oak. And then lastly, during the vinification, they actually finished it in stainless steel tanks, and stainless steel is known for preserving crispness and brightness, and so it actually kind of cuts a little bit of that butteriness or some of the personality that the oak imparts onto the wine. So it is one of my favorite aging technologies or vinification methodologies, if you will. So this one is, from a very classical Italian vineyard, but this is a very modern, mineral driven, light, zesty, personality driven wine. It's a little bit higher of a price point than the wines that we typically cover on this podcast, but it's so beautiful. Definitely a special occasion wine, and I'm obsessed with it. And I hope you guys are drinking it with me right now, because if not, you're definitely missing out.
It is yummy. I am actually one of those people that did have that preconceived notion about Chardonnay, but to Jenny's point, she helped me discover that it's not an old lady's wine.
It's not. I mean, it can be. Trust me, there's a lot of crappy Chardonnay out there.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, let's get into our Rose and Thorn. Mish, tell us about your Rose and Thorn.
Yes, rose and thorn. Well, I guess my first rose is that it is September, which, yay, favorite season of the year. So it's time to do very basic fall things and drink and eat all the pumpkin. So excited for
Yep.
that. And then let's see. And then my other rose is I had a nice Labor Day weekend. My boyfriend's mom is actually up from Florida, so we took her to the US Open again and then had some really yummy dinners throughout New York City. And then for the weekend, I actually traveled to Maryland to hang out with some of my family and went to go see Morgan Wallen in concert. And for those of you who do not know who Morgan Wallen is, he is a country artist. And it was so much fun and amazing. I actually met one of our coworkers, Lauren, who lives in Virginia, like met in DC, and we went together. It's actually funny. Yeah.
I was super jealous.
Yeah, no, it was so fun. Definitely want to go see him again. And then let's see, my thorn of the week is with all the fun activities that have been going on, I have been getting like very minimal sleep. And let's just say I do not function well on very minimal sleep. So I feel like I've just been so tired and just can't wait to catch up on some things. And then I guess to that too, like getting out of the concert. So the field we were at, it's FedEx Field where the NFL team, the Commanders, play. And for some reason, it was so chaotic. So the concert ended at 10:45. We didn't get an Uber until 1 a.m.
Oh my God.
Ridiculous. Yeah. And there's like one exit, like leaving the stadium, and like the entrance for like the Ubers was like closed off until like 12. It was just like a nightmare.
That sounds like my worst nightmare.
So I was like, and I am like a control freak too, and I couldn't control like anything that was going on, and I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? But finally made it out of there at 1 a.m. So that was one of my very minimal sleep nights as well.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm like also a control freak girly. So I just like can't handle when the airplane's late or you can't get an Uber or you're trying to get out of a stadium and it's just like,
Right. I know it's out of my control, but still, it's like, what can I do? And then I'm like, well, maybe I should have drove. And I was like, and then like
then there's traffic.
Exactly. Then there's traffic. I would have had to sit in the car anyway to get out, but it's all good. A very fun weekend. What about you? What is your rose and thorn of this week?
Yeah, you guys, my rose is so exciting this week. I am literally dying. I know a couple weeks back I shared with you guys that I like went on a Taylor Swift journey, if you will, because I was a naysayer, and then I was like totally and completely converted, and I'm now a Swiftie, and I'm obsessed with her, and I think she's just like got the most prowess ever and is an amazing businesswoman. And luckily, my very supportive husband went on this journey with me and also really loves her. So last night, we bought tickets to go see her during her European tour. We're going to Sweden in May.
I am so jealous. You better leave room in your suitcase for me.
I'm like gonna like make sure I can just like stuff Michelle in there. We're just gonna like bebop around. Yeah. So I've been like on a high since we bought it because I'm like, oh my God, anytime anything is really bad, I just have to remind myself that I'm going to Taylor Swift in Sweden.
It's gonna be so much fun.
I'm very excited.
Actually, have you like heard that like she's performing a concert like for movie theaters?
Yes, and that is something like inquiring minds want to know, you guys. It's the Eras Tour, okay, which is what I'm going to see. And I'm having this like debate internally. Should I go see the movie knowing that I'm going to see the show 5 months later? Or should I just wait so that I can be surprised?
I would just wait.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But then everyone's gonna be like talking about it. Whatever. I'll just wait. I'll wait.
Yeah.
No spoilers, you guys.
Yeah, no spoilers. I need to check that out though.
Yeah, you should definitely.
Like if tickets are still available.
You should definitely go.
Yeah. Okay.
And then my thorn is very unoriginal, and I'm in the throes of tax season right now. And if you see bags under my eyes, that's why. But we're in the home stretch, so this will no longer be a concern in a week and a half.
Yes, you're almost there. That's the first thing I said to her when I saw her today. Like, almost done.
Woohoo! Oh my goodness. Okay, well, quote queen, hit us. What do we have?
Yeah. So for the month of September, introducing the month of September, I figured let's do 2 quotes this week. So we have one actually from Jenny, and then one for me. And then I guess they actually both tie in nicely to this week's episode as well. So first quote, this was our pick by Jenny, and those who fail to plan to fail. So by Ben Franklin. And then
or T Swift in Mastermind, in case you guys
or T Swift, yes. And then next quote is September is the other January by Gretchen Rubin. So I figured those two would tie nicely in today's episode, where we're going to be talking about, how to tackle these big goals. And September is a really good time to come back, refocus, and check in with yourselves. I always like to think, September is it feels like a new year to me. I've always felt this way, even like as a child. And I guess it's like, going back to school, a new school year. And even, when I graduated school, I still think of it as a new year for me and a new start, a fresh start.
Yeah,
into the
it's funny
fall.
because
Mhm.
when like Misha and I have had the conversation a lot of times about like what some of our parallels are, and we're very different individuals, but we definitely have a lot of like bonds surrounding some similar principles and ideas. And one of the things that resonated a lot with her, that resonates with me every single year, is like the changing of the seasons and how vastly and deeply we feel that. And I live in Texas, so we don't have a lot of seasons, but there's still like this visceral feeling surrounding the changing of a month. And for me, September has always been super stark as well. I'm the girly that's out getting pumpkins already, and it's still 100 degrees here. And I understand that is like ridiculous, but I grew up watching Gilmore Girls, and I always saw like I just love all the themes about seasons in that show because I feel like they're applicable to life and opportunities and growth and all the seasons that we go through internally as well. And one of the things that was really interesting to me when Michelle was talking about that Gretchen Rubin quote is that something that my husband and I have done for years is every September we have a meeting with one another where we talk about our personal goals. And it's kind of like a standing date that we do every September. And quite frankly, I wish we did it more. I wish we did it, more times a year. But we talk about our big sweeping goals at that time on a personal level. And obviously goal setting, depending on what venture you're looking at, is different, right? In your business, in your personal life, however you want to slice it. But we always talk about our personal life and what we want our life to look like in September. And so it always feels so full of possibilities for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very good idea. Uh-huh.
Everyone highly, highly recommend. Okay. So central theme of this episode is obviously everybody in the world sets New Year's resolutions. Okay. I mean, maybe you don't, but I mean, I think everybody on some level, subconscious or otherwise, definitely is, thinking about that in their brain. Right. But what we want to guide you guys and educate you guys to do is to make sure that you're setting semi-regular goals throughout the year. So that not only can you maintain your motivation, but you can maintain your focus and the habits that are going to take to get you there, right? So
yeah,
every time you set a goal that is more semi-regular, you're going to increase your chances of success and definitely be a lot more consistent than you would otherwise. So the first step in setting a goal is to identify what that goal is, right? So like,
yes.
Is it personal? Is it professional? What does it have to do with? What is motivating you to set that goal, right?
Right.
And then from there, you need to break it down further. And I think I've talked a little bit to you guys before about how sometimes it's so easy to be like, I want to make $1 million, or set some crazy goal and then have no steps that will get you there, right? I'm a really big believer in like setting a bunch of goals, but then setting sub goals, right? So let's say, for example, you wanted to be healthier. Okay. Well, first of all, that's not a specific goal. And we would advise you to be more specific regarding that. But there are many little things that you can do to achieve health on a daily basis. Moving your body for 30 days, drinking enough water, getting enough leafy greens and vegetables, eating enough protein. So all of these are like sub goals within the larger goal of I want to be healthier, or I want to feel healthier in my own body.
Right. And I think also it will help you achieve, kind of like that overall goal. So if you are working on those little goals, then, doing those consistently is going to lead to you hitting, to be overall more healthy or losing weight, those bigger goals there.
Absolutely. And then one of the things, and that's obviously on the personal side, one of the things that I've navigated, and Michelle has too, a lot more recently, is being, setting those goals on a regular basis, not only in your personal life, but in your business, right? And the way that I categorize that personally for my business is I set quarterly goals. And then quite frankly, if you even want to back it out, I set, monthly goals, weekly goals, and daily goals to get me there, because you'll find that most of the goals that you're setting are going to be activity based, meaning that you're going to have to, engage in an activity to get you there. So you have to be able to backwards track that to know what is going to beget the result. So
definitely, I agree. I do the same thing.
Yeah. So it's like, depending on how you chart that or how you look at it, it's really important.
Right.
And so I always set quarterly goals, and that's kind of where I started. And then I realized, okay, I need to know what these quarterly goals are working towards. Do they even add up to what my yearly goal is? And if not, take stock of that and figure out how to do that. And then the last thing that I do is I set a 3-year goal and then a 5-year goal. And I think that everything that you're doing in the day-to-day needs to ultimately be guiding you to that 3 and 5-year goal, because if it's not, then you really have to rethink what that activity is and figure out how to get on a different trajectory.
Definitely. And I think that also comes back is one thing that I like to do in like the beginning of the year when I am setting my yearly goals is to just rethink about my why and what drives me, you know, like what I wake up for, what I work so hard for. And there's, you know, I think people have, you know, different types of why. And it's always important for you to know yours. And that would actually be a good episode for us to do in the future is kind of like go over how to determine your why and kind of like motivators for it. So, and what I actually like to do is I actually write mine down and I like to look at it like sometimes I'll look at it every night or when I wake up in the morning or like on Sundays when I'm getting ready for the week, just so it's like constantly reminding me of what I'm working towards and, you know, why I want to work towards these goals.
Yeah. And Michelle makes a really good point that I hope you guys caught, right? You have to keep your goals in front of you. Right. And there is no one size fits all way to do that. I know we're going to talk to you guys about vision boards. I have found them to be really effective, but I know people who they don't work for. Right. And then you have to figure out another way, whether it's like your lock screen on your phone or, you know, pictures in your office. Like, I don't know, whatever it is, you just have to keep it in front of you because if you're not cultivating it, it's never going to happen. Exactly.
And I'm a big believer in my little sticky notes, what we talked about during Eric's episode. So yeah. I always have them here with me right at my desk. And if you see like my computer behind me has like all of my little like affirmations and goals there. So it's constantly in your face. And I know actually this way. So my boyfriend's also a financial advisor and on his back screen, he actually has like the copy of Fortune 100's most like influential financial advisors in the country. And I asked him one day, I was like, why do you have that there? And he was like, because that's my goal. That's what I'm determined to do. And, you know, one day I am going to be in that magazine article of being the top 100 most influential financial advisors. So I was like, oh, you know, I really like that.
I love that. Oh, yeah. I love that. Makes me so happy. Yes, guys, you have to set goals that are scary, right? And that kind of is a really good segue into the next section, which is the concept of big, hairy, audacious goals, right? I think Jim Collins coined that. And that's something that, quite frankly, for me was really tough. Like I would have these very like non-specific, like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, or I want to be able to travel freely. I want freedom of time and I want freedom of money. And I didn't really have a framework to fit that within. And the best advice I could give you is when you set activity goals and you can break them out on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, all of that adds up to a year and then 2 years and then 3 and then 5. And so you have to just essentially, it's a mathematical equation, right? It's very formulaic. Like, how are you going to get there? There's market research involved. There's one of the things that's been amazing for me in setting big, hairy, audacious goals is accountability partners. It's something we do in our organization every single day. We talk about what goals we're moving towards, and there is no such thing as something that's way too big. It's not crazy for me to hear Michelle say that Chris is going to end up on that magazine cover. I have full faith that he can get it done. And that's because we've cultivated a community and an organization where those big, hairy, audacious goals are possible, right? And you have to have that, you know, I'll tell you guys a quick story. Being an entrepreneur, if that's something that's on your heart, is not something that is a walk in the park. And I know you have probably digested a lot of content surrounding that, and people talk about it day in and day out basis. But when I tell you, not only do I have from my own personal experience, but I also work exclusively with business owners. So I get exposure to a lot of people who are on the train or what have you to get to the destination that is their big, hairy, audacious goal, right? And I get to hear a lot of these people's grievances about what it is that they're struggling with. And I think one that's been presenting itself a lot more and more is like the messy middle concept. where we get to a space in business where we feel like, oh my gosh, we've achieved a level of success. And we really feel like we should be, growing exponentially and linearly from this. And we're not. And in fact, I kind of feel like my business owns me right now. I had coffee with, 2 business owners this morning who were talking to me about how, they achieved millions of dollars above what they ever thought they were going to be able to, but they were miserable because they weren't systematized appropriately, and they didn't have, things set in place to where they could just relax and be, right? And that's so important. And I think goal setting as a technique can really help to allay some of that. Because if you're going to set out on this journey, like, you definitely have to be able to weather that messy middle, because it happens to all of us.
It does. Yes. Exactly. You don't know how. You're just going to, like, we've talked about burnout, me too, and that, just the cause of it. You just get so wrapped up in that messy middle that just get burnt out.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely have to make sure that you have a community as well. And it doesn't have to be a community that looks the same as everybody else's community. Maybe it's online. Like, we live in the information age. There's so many, there's so many opportunities for you to create a community or cultivate one. That's what we're doing here now when we're chatting with you guys.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing that I like that what our organization does is twice a year we'll meet, like, for our annual or mid-year review, and we're just checking in with each other's goals, and we're presenting those goals to others. So I feel like a lot of the times when you're actually speaking them into existence and telling other people, what you want to accomplish, I know I feel this way. It's like, what, I said it, I need to set out to try to accomplish that. I don't want to look like I'm not working towards it. So that's one of those things that I love that we do.
Yeah, I love that too. I get a lot out of that, and it's nice to almost be forced into doing it, because life gets in the way, right? Exactly. So it's like, if you don't have an accountability partner that can help you, like, I know I've talked on here before about how I'm a part of Strategic Coach, which really is a community and a set of principles and tools that helps the entrepreneur grow as opposed to the business itself, and creates, like, boundaries and, freedom of time, freedom of money for the entrepreneur, so that they don't feel like they're run ragged by their business, right? And I met a couple of gals in my last session who we really clicked, and we don't have, the same business at all. One of them's a real estate agent. One of them owns a personal chef business, both extremely successful in their own right. And they reached out and said, hey, like, would you guys like to be an accountability group? Because what I have heard, one of the women in the group was like, I've heard that anybody who has anything negative to say about Strategic Coach, or who feels like it wasn't worth the investment, are the people who don't actually use the tools. And no one's standing over us every day to make sure that we're actually using the tools. So we created a Google Doc between the 3 of us, where we put our commitments of what we were trying to accomplish in the 90 days that we're not at the conference. And we meet once a month to discuss, like, what our progress looks like. Nobody wants to go to that meeting and be like, oh, I didn't do anything.
Right. Exactly. Be like, okay, well, why are you paying for this? And, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so easy as an entrepreneur to be like, oh, something came up. Well, got news for you. Something's always going to come up, right? You have to make the time for it.
Yeah.
And that's been something that's been a lesson that I've had to repeatedly learn.
Gotcha.
Oh my goodness.
And then one thing, so what we do want to help others do is, kind of check in. So like to kind of like how we were talking about budgets and how you want to, like, regularly check in with your budget and see how you're doing. You want to make sure that you're regularly checking in with your goals and updating them as they see fit. So sometimes, the goals might not be working for you and you need to update them or change them. So what I like to do, and like Jenny was saying, quarterly, you could even break it down monthly, weekly, daily, is you want to just, like, check in and see what have you accomplished so far and what else do you have to accomplish of what you wanted within that time frame, and then map out the future for it.
Absolutely. Definitely. And then there's something about writing the goal down. Yeah. I understand that we all live online. I understand that we have notes apps. I get it, right? All of those are great. there's something about actually sitting down and writing your goals down that I don't know what it is. I mean, it's kind of woo woo, but it works. It's the same concept as like a vision board, right? Like, you know, several years ago, I think it was like 2018, I made a vision board. It's still in my bedroom. And I made a vision board, and it's so funny because my husband makes fun of me about it, but like most of the things on the vision board came true. It just didn't come true. All of them did not come true exactly the way that I wanted it to. And it's because I wasn't specific enough. So be very specific but it's incredible. Like the pictures that I put on there, I've attained most of the things. And I highly recommend refreshing that. It's not a set and forget. Your wants, your needs, your desires, everything is going to change over time. Especially as you become more successful, then you're definitely going to have a different, I mean, you have scarcity mindset before you start to garner any level of success. And then once you start to, you're like, oh, I was thinking small. We definitely need to like revisit this, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And actually my planner, so I use Franklin Planner. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. And actually every month in the beginning of it, they actually have, you see, it's kind of like, it's called like a master task list, but I like to think of it as my master goal list for that month. And it helps me. So there's like a personal side and business side. And I write out, you know, I check over my yearly goals and then just write down like my monthly ones that I have to accomplish that month. And it helps me because this is the first page I'm seeing every day to help me check in with myself. And then at the end of the month, it's just so easy to turn here and look and say, okay, you know, what didn't I accomplish? What do I have to focus my time on next month? I love this system.
Okay, we're going to plug that for you guys. That's really similar. I do the same thing. I don't use a Franklin, but I have objectives that I must get to at the beginning of the week, objectives that can roll over, and then goals that absolutely have to be executed upon. And I highly recommend that method because it's a way to keep exactly what you're working on in front of you, as opposed to just thinking that it's like this pie in the sky concept. Because that's why micro goals or subcategories of goals are so important, because sometimes it can just feel like you're not anywhere closer. And in reality, you are. And that's been the biggest factor for me in the quarterly review, in that sometimes I feel like I'm nowhere near where I need to be. And that I haven't accomplished anything. And then I sit down and I reflect every quarter and I write down all the things that I accomplished. And I'm like, okay, I was much more productive than I thought. And we don't give ourselves enough credit for it.
It's so true.
Definitely. So as we mentioned before, these are a lot of like the tactical tips that we wanted to give you guys. We wanted to keep it short and sweet. I know there's a lot of information that could inundate out there about it. But you know, you definitely need to be specific. You need to make sure you're writing them down. You have an accountability group. You're regularly reviewing them. And then you're just establishing checkpoints and asking, as Michelle said, like, are these the goals that I still even want, right? Making sure that you're constantly injecting your wants, your needs, your desires, your personality into essentially your map of your life on the personal side and on the business side. And Michelle and I have a lot of practice with this. It's definitely something that we both, you know, live and breathe. So we wanted to give you guys some of the tools that we use.
Yeah. And I think what we'll do in January is do a bigger like deep dive in on how to set your goals for the new year, and then actually do like a vision board workshop where we could all create our vision boards together. And then Jenny and I will actually like present ours. And so you can see, and then it's also kind of like an accountability thing.
Yeah. I love that.
Bringing it to you guys. So, and then we could check back in next September and see what we've accomplished so far.
We're going to get super vulnerable with you guys and share with you all of our hopes and dreams. And then we can all watch them come to fruition. We'd love to hear about y'all's goals, desires, anything that you guys are manifesting for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Anything is possible. Definitely use these tools. They're so helpful. I cannot talk about them enough. I used to think it was super woo-woo before I started my business, and I actually started implementing this and then seeing progress every single year. It's not always linear, but you're making progress on some things. So definitely super helpful to make sure you're employing these concepts.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, we hope that you all enjoyed our topic today of discussion. Like Jenny said, write down your comments, tell us some of your goals, any little tips that you do, and we will see y'all next week.
See y'all next week.
Happy Wine Wednesday.